All right, welcome to the Shellfish Advisory Committee meeting. We just went through the instructions. If you'd like to raise your hand. What we're going to do is we're going to go through the agenda items, and then after each agenda item, you will be able to raise your hand. So meeting call to order at what time? Apparently my clock's wrong. Paula, what time is it?
7:04.
7:04. Meeting
PM.
Meeting call to order in response to Governor Baker's declaration of a public health emergency and related emergency executive order dated March 12, 2020. Scituate public meetings shall meet remotely until further notice, and we are meeting via Zoom with a call-in option as well as a video option. So welcome to our first Shellfish Zoom meeting. As far as agenda items, the first on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. We have 2 minutes to approve. And again, a reminder we do roll call vote on the remote meeting. So I'm going to start with the April 28, 2020 executive session meeting minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
So Dave Freeman, motion was made to approve the minutes. Jeff Palmer, second. And so I'll do roll call, and when I call your name, just say yes. So Dave Freeman?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Mike?
Yep. Sorry about that. I'm in favor of that.
Sorry, and I should mention Mike is supposed to be in 2 places at once. So there's
Yeah,
also Marshfield Waterways meeting.
Yeah, sorry for the confusion. The Marshall Waterways was supposed to be Monday. It got pushed to Wednesday because of a typical error with the town clerk pushing it to Wednesday. But I didn't want to cancel either meeting, so I just had to do like a 3 or 4 minute brief harvester report with Marshfield, and you had me till midnight. How's that?
All right. Okay, so second, so all in favor, yes, so we're approved. We're missing, actually, is Adam on the phone or is Adam here? That's a good question. Okay, so 6-0. I mean, actually, he wasn't at that meeting, so he couldn't vote on it anyway. So second, we have him to approve the minutes for June 4th, 2020. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve as submitted.
And a second. Move to approve Jeff. Dave had a second. And again, here we go with roll call. Mike DeMeo.
I'm in favor, yes.
Dave Freeman.
Yes.
Paula. Scott.
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
Me, yes. Okay. So first on the agenda is a proposed recreational shellfish change for veterans fees. So we received a letter from the state that our regulations were not accurate, and that we did not change our regulations to recognize that Massachusetts veterans get a reduced fee, get the same fee as a resident of Scituate. So we are proposing to add a line to our regulations that states Commonwealth of Massachusetts veterans are entitled to resident permit rates for recreational shellfish permits upon showing their veterans ID card, DD 214, or CAC card. So that would be the proposed language to be put in the regulations. So is there any what's that?
Make a move.
Is there any discussion on this?
Roger, thank you.
Oh, we can actually open it. So does the committee have anything to say about this?
No.
No.
I can kind of explain it, Chris, Susan, if you want.
Oh, sure.
I mean, so the DD 214 is the military form that you get upon discharge from all 5 branches of service. Honorable, dishonorable, et cetera. Doesn't matter if you're a veteran. 180 days of active service, that makes you a veteran. I think under state it could be 120. The law doesn't really stipulate that but for what it costs for a shellfish license, it's if a person comes to town hall that's a veteran with a DD 214 or CAC card, which is Common Access Card, that's your military ID, but you have active duty, reserve, or retired. I think that more than satisfies the requirement for the state, and I think it's a good program.
Okay, and I do want to note, our fees are really low generally. There are some towns, specifically on Cape Cod, where this would be a big burden. So I do want to recognize that it's like a $20 difference or something.
Right.
So now if anyone does anyone outside of, so does a committee have questions based on what Mike just described?
No.
See any? Okay.
It
Does
looks like
anybody
Adam
else?
joined in.
And then also welcome Adam, just joined the meeting, so Paula can
Gotta
mute.
unmute.
I thought he was,
He's a co-host now, so he should be good.
yeah, he's a co-host, he's good.
All right, sorry about that. I was
It's all right.
somehow ended up
Welcome.
in Water Resources meeting.
Too many meetings, a lot of meetings tonight, it's a popular night. Okay, so anyone outside of the committee, the participants have any questions?
Very good.
Right now, you can either raise your hand or press the *9. I see Craig
Craig's
raising
got a
his hand
question.
in the video, but like, hold on a second. I guess that counts, right? Let me find Craig here.
It
Okay,
should, but Craig,
I just unmuted Craig.
there you go.
Did I?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Hi there.
Welcome, Craig.
Hey, Craig.
Good to see
And
you.
remember, state your name and address.
Oh, yeah, Craig Rosenquist, 17 Acorn Street. Good to see everyone. Now, the regulations that we were dealing with were for commercial shellfishing. This is the general rules and regs for shellfishing in Scituate, and we never touched those.
No, we didn't at all. We didn't touch those, but this is a modification to, good point, Craig, that these regs have existed for quite some time, and the last time they were updated were a couple years ago. So these
So
are
is the
different.
shellfish, is the
Yes,
Shellfish
these are
Commission taking over?
They are different regulations. Well, we were just asked to fix the regs, so,
No,
and
but
I actually,
I guess what I'm asking is the Shellfish Committee taking over the responsibility to control those, the general shellfish regs?
I looked at our charge and it said recreational and commercial, so, I mean,
Okay,
Mike enforces it all, so,
okay.
And we've been concentrating on commercial, but though the recreational was always within our scope. We never felt that they needed touching, but they obviously do.
obviously.
Yeah, well, they have to be maintained, right?
Correct.
There's always gonna
Right,
be
they
some-
have to be maintained. Good point, Craig.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's Susan. So I can speak to the recreational shellfish regulations that the selectmen approved. Those were updated a couple years ago. They're very similar to Marshfield. It's the same river, so this is a state mandate. So in Marshfield is it'll be the same thing with the veteran licenses. So, but I think it's a good idea for the Shellfish Committee, Advisory Committee to be the administrators of both commercial and recreational. It just makes a lot of sense. I mean, there's not anything glaring in the regulations for recreational. So, I mean, they're much simpler than we handle with the commercial regulations for over a year. So,
yeah, it's a good point, Mike. And it also offers time for public comment. This is obviously something that we have to do. There's we don't have a ton of choice as to how to write this, but something else could come up where it might be good for public comment too. So then the process would be after this, that it goes to the Board of Selectmen to approve. So we would take these, upon approve, this one sentence added, we would take these minutes, we would vote on it and approve them and send it to the Board of Selectmen, because the Board of Selectmen has to then technically approve it. We're only advisory committee. They are the ones that make the decisions. So that would be the process. Are there other questions? Everyone's here for the main event. Okay. I don't see any other questions.
Looks like you're good. Looks like you're good.
Looks like we're good. Thank you. So does somebody want to make a motion on the shellfish, the
Make a
recreational
motion that
shellfish?
we accept the proposed changes to the recreational regulations.
I second.
All right, Jeff and Dave are quick on the draw tonight. Jeff made the motion. Dave second, and I can call I'll do a roll call. Jeff?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Paula?
She's muted.
Oops.
Yes.
Adam?
Aye.
Scott?
Yes.
Me, yes. And Mike has disappeared to the Marshfield meetings. So I don't know what we do about that.
He doesn't vote.
Mike, oh well. All right, 6-0 approved. Okay, so the next item is Mike's item, and he just disappeared to the Marshfield meeting. Let me see if he will be back. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is the closure of the North-South River. Mike, what we plan to do for this is Mike has a presentation that was given, and he will go through the presentation that was given to him. I will be clear that the Shellfish Advisory Committee did not attend this. It was a meeting for the Shellfish Constables, is my understanding of it. So he's going to go through the presentation and explain what's going on, and then where we are in the process, and then open for discussion. And we hope to talk about next steps. And what I'm really interested in, which I think some of you may be interested in too, is what can we do for this, and what can be done immediately or in the near future or more distant future as well. So we hope to plan about that. So is Mike back, or do I need to? I don't see him. Mike. Okay. So I don't know.
Want to jump to see if there's any walk-ons?
We could jump to the walk-on. That's a great idea. Let's pause this agenda item and jump to the walk-ons. Do we have any walk-on hands up? No.
Susan, when will our next meeting be? Are we meeting as needed?
We can start meeting more frequently if there's something to do about the North-South River. I think that would be a really good idea to start regularly meeting. Oh, Jamie has a question. All right, let me unmute him. All right. Maybe? Are you unmuted? You're muted.
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
I was going to suggest we could just play charades.
Oh, we could.
No, but seriously, so Jamie Davenport, sitting in my bed at 16 Booth Hill Road to hide from my kids. I just was wondering if you might be able to provide an update as to where we stand on the Friends of Bassin Beach having uncovered some supposed improprieties or lack of depth to the meeting minutes, and you know, the lawyer was requesting more detailed minutes and all that. Do you?
Yeah, so we just approved. Yes, I can. We just approved the minutes, and they will be posted.
Okay, but wasn't there some
earlier in the agenda?
What's that?
Earlier in the agenda, we approved the minutes, and they will be posted as required.
But what I was reading in the newspaper article was that the Attorney General's office felt that the minutes were incomplete or insufficient for a 2.5-hour meeting. Was there anything that was? And I noticed that we're now is this being televised or just
Oh,
recorded?
we're always,
Like-
yeah, this is a new process. This has nothing to do, so I can speak to, this has nothing to do with that. This is a
Okay.
new process for the town. I'm super excited that they have a Zoom account and a little bit better access than the last time we tried to do meetings. So we can,
I think it's live on Facebook, Jamie.
yeah, it's live on Facebook.
I
don't
see
think
that
we're-
too,
I
yes.
don't think we're like I don't think we're on Scituate TV. think
Well, I
we're
just see
on-
Scituate Television is present. That's why I was wondering.
Oh, no. I mean, it's just, I think it's just the town getting better at remote.
It's all
Um,
linked. It's all linked. So we're recording and it does stream it live. Just
Okay. Oh, so we are on Scituate TV. That's
correct.
awesome.
Yes, you're out
Yeah.
there.
But no, it's not connected. I think we're just getting better at doing remote stuff.
But I guess my ultimate question was, are we okay when it comes to, it appeared as though the town might have been in hot water for meeting in executive session to approve to review the shellfish aquaculture license applications.
Yeah, I can't really comment on that.
Okay, fair enough.
But they will be posted. Everything's going to be posted. So it will be posted in the next, I don't know, whenever they get posted. In the next couple days. So is there any other questions?
It's probably worth once again recommending that if people do not know how to raise their hand and you are muted, so you cannot unmute yourself and you're a public participant, what you will do is you will take your mouse and you will scroll it to the bottom of your screen where it says participants. You'll click that button. And what will happen is on the right-hand side of your screen, there'll become a white window that shows all the participants in the meeting. If you move your mouse to the bottom of that screen, if you are not a co-host, you will see an option that says raise hand. That's how you'll raise your hand if you have a comment to say. If you're on the phone, you'll push *9. So if you have a comment or anything of the sort, that's how you will make your comment now, to raise your hand. And Madam Chair Harrison will call on you to speak.
Okay, I don't see any hands raised, nor do I see Mike back. So I don't know what to do, but to wait for Mike, since he was the only one at the presentation. Ugh. Here, let me mute myself.
Can you put it back up on the screen and we could just maybe
Absolutely.
get familiar
can.
with where those areas are exactly?
Yeah, I don't want to give wrong information. No, that's what I'm like struggling with.
So exactly where is that red checkered area? Does anybody know?
No, that's Marshfield.
No. The next slide, I think, gives a better perspective. Right, so that's all of Marshfield right there, pretty much, I think. Right, halfway down the South River, that whole green shaded area, all the way to where it touches Duxbury, it looks like.
Yeah, it does look like it. I was not invited to the presentation, so I can't. It's hard to give. Oh, Craig has his hand raised. Let me look at that.
Hi, Susan. Even though you didn't participate in the presentation, can you give a little background of what started this whole thing and where it's coming from?
So my understanding is it's happening all over and that it's just late for implementation. And there's just a new way to do the tests so they're closing until we can figure out how to get the tests done. And that's what
Are they closing a lot of areas around the state?
That's a good question. I'm unfamiliar of other areas that are being closed.
Craig, my understanding was this is the first area that they've closed. And so there's a good bit of anger, I think, coming from from our side and Marshfield's side on why we got picked to be first.
Yeah.
It's a little suspicious, actually.
All right, Brad has a hand raised. I can unmute.
Ask him to unmute. You got it. And he'll take a
You
moment.
muted?
I
Okay,
unmuted him.
can you hear okay?
I can, yeah.
Hi, good evening. Thanks so much for having this forum. It is so mission critical. I was in Scituate Town Hall yesterday. There are 100 clamming licenses that have been issued. I've been
Sorry,
talking
Brad. Sorry to interrupt you, Brad. Can you state your name and address?
Sure, you bet. Brad White, 149 Old Main Street, Marshfield Hills.
Okay.
And thank you so much for having this forum tonight. As a shell fisherman, recreational shell fisherman in both towns, Scituate and Marshfield, I'm just floored that they have this, the FDA, has this ready, fire, aim approach with no real public comment to the town of Marshfield or Scituate back in August, and just unilaterally shut this down. So we need to be as pragmatic as we can and as strong as we can to unite and have them reopen these flats. I mean, they want to. My understanding and my reading is that they want to test in the summer, which is the worst possible time. Mike DeMeo will know more about that because of the recreation, the boats, the people, and so forth. So just to shut this down when we're getting clean coliform counts and not allowing families to recreate in this very difficult pandemic time, and also to feed their families. I think it's important that you're having this tonight, and I think it's important that we amalgamate to really go to the FDA and say, hey, what's up? Reopen until you figure out a plan. So that's my point this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. I appreciate the comment. Looks like Mike is back, so we're gonna be able to go back to our plan, which is to get all the information that Mike has from being at the meeting and then open it up to comment and hopefully figure out what a path forward is on this. So can we share the presentation and Mike can start?
Yeah, it's also, they have to deal with normal.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so before I start, this is the PowerPoint slide that I got from Marine Fisheries with the closures. A little disheartening to get this with no agenda for a Zoom meeting back in August with the two town administrators and the sewer plant operators in Marshfield and Scituate. It was kind of a surprise to us, to be honest with you. We're not the only areas that are impacted. Plymouth did have a closure. So did the Mass Maritime area have a closure as well with this. It's not being driven by Marine Fisheries. These are FDA mandates. We could probably talk all day about policy versus regulation, but these closures are more for commercial entities, which the rivers do not have any commercial entities at this time. It's all recreational, as Brad White had mentioned. I think it's a little bit of the cart before the horse approach, which I'll get into the dye studies and things like that. But, you know, unfortunately, we do get more with honey than we do vinegar rather than complaining about it. We had a meeting with our state congressional folks and delegations. I think it went pretty well. Then, you know, the election happened, so I think people are kind of recovering from that a little bit. But towns of Marshfield and Scituate are going to fight this the best we can. I'm looking at ways of getting a dye study done. I'm not sure what it's really going to cost. But, both towns do have shellfish gift accounts, I will say. Once I have more information on the dye study and the dilution study, which I'll talk about in a minute, you guys could ask some questions. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like I said, I'm not happy about it either. I'm a big recreational shell fisherman, as many people know, and it impacts me. And, you know, the marine fisheries and FDA have my undivided attention in this. So on slide number 1, if I can go back to that, slide number 1 is, so MB 2.2 is, that's where the Marshfield sewer plant outfall pipe is. So that area's been closed for years. You can see a little area down by MB 2.1. That is Burke's Beach or Green Harbor Beach in Marshfield. That's closed as well. All the Green Harbor is closed. Then the MB2 area and the green area is open, obviously, but that's more for commercial, for like surf clams and things like that. But those areas to the north of MB 2.2 are actually open for recreational. So, but that's Marshfield. So next slide. So this kind of shows the dilution analysis from the FDA with their suggestion of 100,000 to 1 dilution from the water treatment plant from Marshfield and the affected areas. So that's what they're saying is the prohibited zone. So, but this is Scituate, so we'll move on to the rivers now. So the next one, please, next slide. So that's MB2, which is, like I said, the MB2 is Mass Bay 2, Massachusetts Bay 2. That's how the marine fisheries deems the testing areas. So what I do is I keep a folder of both towns of all the water sample testing for fecal coliform, and they're put into a book by date. I have every test since I've been shellfish constable and warden, so they get pretty heavy, and I actually got samples back today from October from Cohasset to Green Harbor. And ironically, they're all pretty well because the water quality is really good. But this closure is more for viral, not fecal coliform. So, and I think that's where some people are getting confused of why the rivers are actually closed. So, next slide. So this is MB5. This is the North and South River areas that were typically open, in the blue shaded area, conditionally approved. Now, conditionally approved means they're not open year round. So the rivers were always open November 1st to May 31st until this year. It's over 600 acres of recreational shellfishing area that are very, very plentiful. I mean, we never ever got to a time where we had to have rolling closures on either side of the river for shellfish beds to close portions of certain areas because they've always been plentiful. And in fact, it's good to actually turn the soil over to dig clams up. So now we're kind of faced with all this acreage, and the clams are pretty much laying stagnant, not being harvested, which they could choke themselves out and not reproduce. Next slide. So this covers MB6, Massachusetts Bay 6. So within the MB6, there's like 8 or 9 testing sites in those rivers that we test, like along Central Street, the South River straightaways, down by Central Ave. There's specific areas where we test. We test the Mouth River. We test in Truant's Island area as well. So there's 8 or 9 stops in the rivers when we actually do the testing. And I can share those with you guys as well. You know, some people have asked for them through Freedom of Information. So if you want those, it's no secret. I think it'd probably make you not as happy knowing that the water quality is really that good and we're not able to actually go shell fishing. So next slide. So this talks about the 1,000 to 1 dilution rate when they're looking for over 100,000 to 1. And this is really the sticking point that I had with the FDA closure, where this information came from, where's the study at, when was it done, and how come if this started back in 2018, why the closure in 2020? How come we weren't notified in advance? Division of Marine Fisheries felt that their sample was adequate, which I agree with them, and they were basically overruled by the feds to close this area down. So now we have to fight back with the Army Corps, Marine Fisheries, and work and parcel with them to hopefully get these beds back open. Like I said, it's a little bit of the cart in front of the horse. Why the dye study was not done in advance. Yes, Scituate has a treatment plant. Yes, Scituate has done a lot of upgrades to their sewer plant. Have there been discharges accidentally? Yes. It's a lot of gray water a lot of times too. It's a lot of rainwater a lot of times too. It's not actually just raw sewage, which is a misnomer. And the sewer plant also has ultraviolet testing. So that was not really discussed in this closure as well. If the sewage is being treated for its discharge, how come those tests were not done in advance? Now we have to go back, undo the carriage, and get these testings done. At what cost, I have no idea. So that's what we're still working on. Next slide. That's the Marshall dilution sample in the formula. I'm not a mathematician, but it basically equates that it's not enough dilution for that area. So I'll just focus on the rivers tonight. Next slide, if there is the next one. Or is that, there should be one for rivers, right?
That is all I have on here.
No, that was it.
Okay, go back to the one we just looked at then. So this one's the same thing. So why the dilution is 1,000 to 1 for a Marshfield sewer plant and exactly 1,000 to 1 for the rivers is beyond me. If you calculate all the flow of water out of the north and south rivers, to me personally, I think it's just as much flow as there is in Duxbury Bay. Duxbury Bay is probably 10 to 12 feet at high tide, and low tide, half as the tidal marsh, flats. The rivers have a lot of flow of the north and south rivers and the Herring River. So my push would be to have the dye study completed and the dilution study as well. So let's see what those numbers come back at. That's what really needs to be done. Even one step further, I asked marine fisheries, I said, well, what's the possibility of moving the Scituate outflow pipe towards the ocean side? And it really wasn't met with great support because of permitting and everything else. But those are some things I've been thinking about to, try to get the shellfishing beds open. But at this point, I will say they are temporarily closed. They're not prohibited. If they were deemed prohibited, it would be much harder to get them reopened. So it's our job to our colleagues and constituents and the shellfishing, recreational shellfishing folks of both sides of the river to work together also with the North-South River watershed to see what can be done. I know State Rep Kearney knows about this. State Rep Patrick O'Connor and Stephen Lynch also knows about this. So they are working their angles and they're working on what they can do as well.
What you're looking at, but those Hamilton
we'll see what happens. I mean, but for this year, I think we're out. I think it's really hard to enforce these rivers. I didn't even know this closure was even coming to the Monday or Tuesday before the beds were supposed to open. As you know, I was placed on active duty September 1st to October 1st for Coast Guard for Hurricane Sally and Hurricane Laura. And when I got back, the towns, which I sent the letter out to you guys, and the letter is actually online. If not, it should be online, with the reply from Jeff Kennedy that it took a while to get back. And I called Marine Fishing and said, what's going on? I haven't heard anything back. Where's the reply from you folks? And it came like 2 or 3 days before the beds were supposed to open. So there's been a lack of communication with the state. I would say that. I know they're busy. Everybody's busy and COVID and people working from home, but this is something I felt should have had a little more coordination with both towns. I think Marshall and Scituate worked very closely together with the nice letter that was pushed out, and it is getting traction. Unfortunately, the government has one speed and it's not fast sometimes. Like I said, I'm not happy as either. I'm a big proponent of recreational shellfishing. This also hurts our propagation projects of adding more shellfish to the beds, because why put more clams on top of clams if you can't harvest them? It doesn't really do much good. So with that, I guess I'll open up for questions.
Okay, Craig has a question. Let me start with him.
Hi, Mike. Who's responsible for doing these dye tests?
So the Marine Fisheries is supposed to be the lead on it.
And do you have a time frame?
Now I'm waiting back. I've already emailed them, Craig, and I'm waiting to hear back from them. I asked them too if the towns could participate or financially, if there's grant funding out there. What does a dye study cost? Who does it? I know the town has some folks that work for Woods Hole. And we also have some folks that work for the Woods Hole Group, which are consultants. So we're working to figure out what it actually costs to do a dive study. But the thing is, anything that has to be done, we have to work in concert with marine fisheries. I don't want to go pissing them off, for lack of a better term, but I think we have their support in this a little bit. I mean, it's kind of hard for a state agency to go against a federal agency to keep a shellfish bed area open when you have all kinds of requirements. So I see their point, but if we can work closely with them, hopefully we can get the beds open next year.
But wouldn't there, you know, when the sewer treatment plant was put in, what was that, 30 years ago or so? Was there a dye test done then? Because the flats have been open since, you know, they've been open for a long time.
They've been open for a real long time. And actually, the flats used to open December 1st, and through rigorous testing, we were able to get them open November 1st.
Yeah.
And we test the rivers year round. And like I said, we've never had bad sampling for fecal coliform in the rivers. I get the samples. We're doing testing probably next week with marine fisheries, which is a good thing. So they're still wanting to test the rivers, which is good, because if we just blow it off and don't test, they could close them and make them prohibited, which is hard to get open, because then you have to do a lot more series of testing to keep them open. So if we're testing and testing and testing, we can articulate and show that, hey, the water quality is pretty good, barring the dye test and the dilution test.
Yeah, could we take this focus on the river by the federal government and state? And is it possible to try to get these open year round so they could be commercially opened up?
That's been a fight all along. Be honest with you, we've been trying to push for that, but you know, we got a pretty big curveball on this. I mean, I think from right now, we should at least try to get them back to what we had, then go from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I wish we could, Craig, but that's going to be met with laughter if I say that. But if we can get back to what we had, I think that's a good starting point.
Okay. I just thought since there was a focus, it may be a good time to try to get it opened for commercial use, but
yeah,
that's a whole different subject.
Certainly doesn't hurt. We can definitely push that. I know the North South River Watershed pushed out a phenomenal newsletter about it. Sam Woods has been instrumental contacting Jeff Kennedy and Marine Fisheries. They put out a real nice letter. I think I pushed it out to the group as well. She's really good. She had over 2,000 people on the email. So this is not something that the town's just going to bow down and walk away from. We're going to fight pretty hard. Like I said, I love the clam as well. So we'll continue to push. Like I said, you get more honey than you do vinegar. So we got to be smart about it, not, you know, go against the grain so much.
Yeah. No, I understand.
Dave,
did you have something, Dave?
I just want, Mike, thanks a lot for that report, Mike. I just want to understand the process. You did push out that letter of September 14th that both town administrators of Marshfield and Scituate sent to Marine Fisheries. So just to understand the process, the FDA are the ones that came down and shut these areas through Marine Fisheries.
Yes.
So Marine Fisheries is enforcing the FDA's ruling.
Yes.
And then we are trying to push back to Marine Fisheries, who then we are hoping would push back to the FDA.
Yes.
So we don't have any ability to communicate directly with the FDA.
Well,
Marine Fisheries,
we technically could, but like I said, we got to work with Division of Marine Fisheries, because you also have the National Sanitation Program as well, which is like over a 95-page document of like shellfishing and things like that. But what I'm told, a lot of these closures are coming because of commercial shellfishing and aquaculture. So if there's areas that are flowing into Mass Bay, Cape Cod Bay, and all these areas from potentially pollutant areas, it could impact oyster aquaculture and things like that. That's how I read it.
That's what the
rivers have
FDA is protecting.
Right, and the rivers have no commercial entities at this point. So we're kind of being held to a higher standard, unfortunately, I believe.
And right now, you're waiting to hear back from your September 14th letter.
We did get a reply from Marine Fisheries. That letter is online. The letter that we sent to them and the reply letter is on the town website. Okay. It should be on there.
Yeah, they were posted, I think, in 2 different places.
Okay.
On the web, they're on the website.
Yeah,
Um,
Jeff Kennedy's reply is on there. It was a nice letter, but I don't think it should taken that long to get it back to us. But we do have some traction here. Like I said, I mean, I think they're in a corner to help us. We're not the only ones. Plymouth was closed down, and so was a portion down by Mass Maritime as well. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of people clamming near the Cape Cod Canal, but unfortunately, my focus is the rivers, not the canal or Plymouth.
And we're, Mike, to be clear, we're working with the state because they would be the ones to implement the testing or to, so it's not so much pushing back, we're just trying to get it tested.
Right.
Is that the plan? Okay.
Yeah, it tested for the virals, not fecal coliform. That's what they test for now. And that's the issue. Every sample would have to be approved by the Marine Fisheries Lab, which I think there's only 1 or 2 labs in the state that test. And sampling is expensive as it is.
Yeah.
Even back in the day, the North-South River used to do their own sampling as well, but Marine Fisheries would never accept their samples because they didn't come from them, because you have a certain time to have those samples tested. They're all time-stamped, they're all numbered, barcoded, et cetera. And they have specific numbers, not barcode, but specific number on there for each location in the rivers. Because like I said, there's probably 14 different stations that we test in the rivers, not just the mouth of the river. We test by the 3A bridge. We test halfway up the Herring River. We test by Boogie number 9 in New Inlet. We test in Truant's Island. We test down by Central Street. So there are a bunch of testing sites. It's not just 1 or 2 areas. It's pretty extensive. I've also got copies of, they've also started testing Scituate Harbor again as well. And I was very pleased by the numbers for Scituate Harbor. Actually look really, really good. As you know, the towns did a lot of work with all the cliffs with the sewer projects back in the day. So that's another reason why they started sampling again, because that was a couple years ago where we petitioned the Marine Fisheries to start testing Scituate Harbor again, because we wanted to get clamming back in the harbor and also potential oyster aquaculture. So I think we're well on our way there. And furthermore, they tested by water. They tested Cohasset, and it came out phenomenal. So there's no impacts to Briggs Harbor. There's no impacts to oyster aquaculture for Briggs Harbor. Briggs Harbor is open year-round, which is deemed truly approved. So I think for Scituate, we may have to focus a little more efforts on recreational shellfishing in the area. Well, while it's hard to get to, at least we do have some areas to recreational shellfish. This closure does not impact the beaches whatsoever. So all the front beaches, Hummerock, are still open. Egypt Beach, there's still a lot of quahogs up there. So those areas are still open. So there is still Scituate shellfishing, just not in the rivers.
Okay, we have some more questions. Jamie, I've been watching who's first. It was Jamie, Brad, and then Craig. So I'll unmute Jamie first.
I have a couple of comments. So I first learned about this back in May or June. I was on the phone with Chrissy Pettipaw with the Division of Marine Fisheries on an unrelated issue, and the topic came up. Mike, I'm not so sure if you're right on it not affecting Briggs Harbor, because that was one of the major things that we talked about, that not only would it affect the North and South Rivers and recreational clamming, but that it would have, it would possibly move the westernmost 4 farms out of the 8 proposed farms in Briggs Harbor further away from the mouth of the channel, based on outfall from Cohasset's sewage treatment plant. And she said that dilution testing would need to be done for that area as well. So we're not off the hook for that, and that's going to complicate issues with aquaculture if and when we can ever get out of the doldrums of the courts. Now, in speaking with Chrissy, she made it sound, I've spoken with her a few times, that it was the FDA's responsibility to do the dilution and the dye testing, and that part of the problem was they didn't have a definitive answer as to when they were going to carry out that testing. I mean, it sounded like it would be months, if not a year. But you're saying that it's the Division of Marine Fisheries that are being tasked with the testing?
That's what Greg Sawyer said.
Okay, so maybe they shifted gears, because I can swear that she kind of put it on the FDA. And, you know, a lack of communication with them being responsible for her not knowing, you know, if or when this would ever revert back to being open. So I would like to, along with the North and South Rivers, keep an eye out on Briggs Harbor, because that has the potential to slow down even more an already contentious issue. We don't want to get out of the courts and then have to be faced with getting dye testing and dilution testing. So it might be a good idea to reach out to, it's hard because it's Cohasset sewage treatment plant, and it would be their responsibility, wouldn't it? Although it's Scituate waters, so that the testing in Briggs Harbor would be the responsibility of Scituate, but
It's our
any
responsibility.
altering of, or any trying to work with the treatment plant and get it tested for viral load and all that stuff would have to be coordinated with Cohasset, and we know how they feel about this whole situation, so that might complicate things.
Right. Well, that's the first I've heard of Briggs Harbor having an issue with Chrissy Peppertis, because I'm in contact with her too, and she's never ever mentioned Briggs Harbor.
Ask her about it next time you talk to her.
Yeah. Well, I shouldn't have to ask her those questions personally. She should be coming to me as a shellfish constable, let me know what's going on, and with those areas.
Yeah.
We worked hard with them when Cohasset was closed down for not sampling, and we all felt it was tied into the oyster aquaculture that we were proposing. And we pushed back hard to keep all the Briggs open and push that closure line from the jetty inside of Cohasset Harbor out to number 5 Jack Rock.
We talked about that. So
kept all Strawberry Point open. So, and if you look on the Marine Fisheries website, that's the current line of the open area, which is
right. But I emailed her. So I guess the difference being, it's not a question of water quality, correct? It's the question of dilution and of dilution capability. Yeah. And so on the phone with her for about an hour, I emailed her, and she received, and we went over the 8 proposed farm sites. And she said that the 4 to the east, closest to Glades, would most likely be fine. But the westernmost ones that are situated around that rock may not be they might not be okay. So I just want to keep an eye on that. And then I just wanted to point out that this is definitely not just a localized issue. This has the potential to be devastating all across the eastern seaboard. There's already been rivers in New Hampshire that have been closed. Like you said, Kingston and Plymouth, Chatham. This could wreak havoc in Chatham, Wellfleet, because don't forget that this isn't just a sewage treatment issue. There's also a big mooring field component to this FDA regulation, and there are a lot of waterways and estuaries in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, I'm guessing Connecticut, all across the East Coast that could really be screwed over by this. And I know that after having tried to pull some people together, with Patrick Carney's office and Senator O'Connor's office, but also I've been in contact with Scott Soares and Seth Garfield, the president of the Mass Aquaculture Association. And they, I believe, in turn have reached out to Bob Rowe with the East Coast Shellfish Growers Association, who has a pretty good amount of lobbying power down in Washington, D.C. So there are supposedly some pretty big guns that are involved in trying to fight back against the FDA on this, because, again, we talked about this. Massachusetts in particular has spent millions of dollars and countless hours ensuring that our waterways are cleaner than, say, the Southeast, like the Gulf, down in the Gulf, where those are the people that really need to be, kept in check with regulations like this.
Right. So as you said, Jimmy, I just brought up Cohasset, which is MB 10.0, which is basically the line goes right down the middle of the Cohasset Channel, out towards Jack Rock number 5, which is a green buoy off the East Willies, I believe, or West Willies. And that area is shown truly approved. So,
but I don't think, I guess my point would be that it doesn't matter whether it's approved or conditionally approved if there's a presence of if there's a possibility that in the event of a failure in the treatment plant, and through dilution and dye testing, they prove that there's not enough dilution out there. It doesn't matter whether the water is truly approved or conditionally approved. It would be affected, the body of water, and it would even cross over boundaries. So it could straddle MB10 and MB9 or whatever, I just think we should really look into it more. I mean, I could, you know, I haven't talked to Christy in about a month and a half or 2 months, but that's, as I remember it, that Briggs Harbor was definitely on the chopping block for this situation.
Okay. Well, I could email her first thing tomorrow along with Greg Sawyer. So, but that's the first I've
thank
heard
you.
of any problems, potential problems at Briggs Harbor. So, because we felt there was an issue when they closed down the Cohasset side. We thought we were being kind of blocked a little bit for the oyster stuff, but I mean, it's still open and goes straight out. So, I mean, that's the first I've heard of any problems in Cohasset.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Jamie. Brad, did you have
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for Harbor Master DeMeo. Michael, I'm still trying to get my arms around this. So you were short noticed. There was no agenda. There is no plan on how to test or when to test, but they're just closing. Is there any way we can get something open for the 6-month season? Number one. And number two is, should we be writing the FDA lead on this? Because Mr. Kennedy is the messenger. He did a nice job with his letter. I thought it was well done, and clearly he was told to write it. And I'm wondering, number three is, should we get Congressman Keating or above immediately involved with this? Because FDA, federal, Congress, I mean, we need to fight fire with fire, and I know you're working really hard on this, but what do you want us to do? What can we do to salvage any part of the next 4 or 5 months? And listening to what Jamie said just now, that's scary, you know? I mean, it really, truly is, because, you know, when these things get locked down, they stay locked down. And you've done such a hard, you've done such great work at maintaining the reporting on these bodies of water. And we've done a great job with everybody in this call right now of sweat equity and reseeding and doing all that hard work. And, you know, by not being able to harvest now, we'll choke them out. All of these things, can we put together a letter that's got bullet points that we can all write the FDA? And who do we write at the FDA? So that's kind of my buckshot approach of something doesn't smell right here. And I think to close this with no problem and, okay, let's come up with a testing plan. And, oh, by the way, we'll do it later, but we're going to close now. It just doesn't add up.
No, you're right, Brad. And as far as the short term, I don't see how we get any other areas open. And like I said, the front beaches are still open. So, I mean, it's not as ideal as the rivers, obviously, but I'll work to get an FDA contact. I know Congressman Lynch is working on it since August as well. Like I said, the election just got done and people are just getting back on their feet and all the holidays are coming. I think it's going to be some time for just get some traction, you know, with COVID going on. I mean, I don't think we're getting pushed to the front lines of people's priorities, unfortunately. I wish we were, because you know, second place is first place loser in my book. But you know, we can only do so much. You know, like I said, I'll say it again: you get more honeydew vinegar. We start, you know, a writing campaign, which is fine, but it has to be to the right person and for the right reasons. You know, I mean, and they do work, but I think the Rivershed has done a great job too already with getting the word out, and they're pretty powerful as well. I think we're hitting the right departments. It's just going to take some time. Like Jamie said, it's not just Marshfield. Like I said, Plymouth's closed. Down by the Mass Maritime is closed as well, and the other one's coming. But, you know, what's really the crux of the problem? Like, why all of a sudden is this happening? I mean, is it something that Marine Fisheries has been mismanaging, or has Marine Fisheries felt that the rivers and other areas are well tested and doing well? And they said that they felt the rivers were perfectly fine. Yes, with the sewer plant there, but anytime there's a problem with the sewer plant, they call me directly, and the river beds get closed. You know, they have some problems over there where some things have happened with very small discharges, but if that happens, the rivers get retested. No different when we do a shellfish propagation project. Before we dig those, the meats get tested before anyone even digs. So I think Marine Fisheries has done what they can, and I certainly don't blame them. But you know, it's everybody has a boss. You know what I mean? But we just got to find the right pathway and do what we can.
Yeah, one more question for you. When you say Plymouth is closed, are you talking about even oystering there for the farmers on the commercial side for Plymouth, Kingston, that area? Is that shut down?
I'm not sure the extent of the closure in Plymouth, Brad. And personally, I'm going on what Marine Fisheries said, that Plymouth was closed down near their power plant. I'm not even sure where their sewer plant is in Plymouth. And it's not really my backyard, and I'm more focused on the problems locally. So
Okay, well, count me in to help with this because, we have a power of a lot of people that like that resource, and I'd be happy to be involved.
thank you, sir.
Okay, Craig was the next one with a comment.
Go ahead, Greg.
Mike, you mentioned a little earlier, you do the testing. Who actually does the testing? Is it the assistant harbor masters, or do you have volunteers from the schools, or what?
So mostly it's done by Marshfield, and we do have volunteers that help out. Dave Duffy helps out. Russell Clark helps out sometimes, where we take out the Division of Marine Fisheries staff. So yes, we do have some volunteers that help out, and we're going to testing with our boats probably next week as well.
Okay, I'd like to volunteer to help.
Okay. You have a boat in the river?
I can put it in.
Okay. All right. It's fine.
Okay.
Any other volunteers?
There's probably a lot of volunteers. I don't know how many boats in the river though. In the middle of winter. So
Right. Yeah, they do test from shore sometimes, but it's preferred to test into the flow of the currents because they put the bottles down about 2 feet to get more accurate samples versus on the bank in the wind. So you do get better samples if you're actually in the river in the channels. So.
are there other questions or comments?
Well, Mike, if you could get us some FDA contact, like who actually wrote, the person who actually wrote to Marine Fisheries that had to enforce this, I guess it doesn't hurt with Brad's idea of just shotgun it, nothing wrong with sending letters, similar to the letter that you sent to the town administrator sent to Mr. Kennedy. We could all, and North and South River Watershed can all send letters to directly to the FDA. Doesn't hurt, right?
Sure it doesn't. I will get that done.
Thank you.
Any other suggestions, comments? I'm just one person, so I mean, you guys have been instrumental with everything else. So if you got some ideas, I'll gladly take them. I've been taking.
What about the press, Mike? What about getting media involved?
I think they're probably on this call already, Brad. I'm already ahead of you on that.
Yeah, I'm aware. I'm just thinking it's a good idea,
It is. It's a good tool. Like I said, we've got to be smart about it. Like I said, it's good to create some awareness to a bigger problem, not just Marshfield Scituate, but I think we'll get down to the actual FDA person, and we'll go from there.
Adam.
Yeah, sorry, I don't find a way to actually raise my hand on the participant screen, but did either Marshfield or Scituate town solicitors look at filing for an injunction against the decision with the FDA, or is that overly aggressive at this point?
I think for an injection, that would be above my pay grade. Both town administrators did craft a nice letter that, I did the first cut on it, obviously, but we're kind of in a holding pattern. The letter was sent. We replied back from Jeff Kennedy. So I think I've already emailed those folks back, and we'll look to the next step. Like I said, I've already asked Jeff and Greg how the town's getting involved with the dye study. What is the funding? How much would it cost? Who starts it? Who does it? Either DMF or FDA. If it's FDA, I'll knock on FDA's door. I mean, I'll find the right person to talk to. Trust me.
I mean, I would think that the town solicitors could do something in court to say, hey, until we have the results of the dye studies, the current situation is that we've been managing our shellfish flats appropriately. We don't have any instances of people getting sick or any kind of outbreaks of disease. When there are wastewater treatment plant episodes that require the beds have been closed immediately and, are subject to clean water testing prior to reopening. I don't see that the FDA really has a case for doing this type of closure without having some sort of data other than just their calculations, dilution calculations. I mean, it's one thing to have the math. It's another thing to have empirical data. And I would think that previous history should dictate that we are not in an unsafe condition. And if we were, that there would have been, evidence of outbreaks of disease or problems within the shellfishing community. Certainly the shellfishing community is not going to be trying to poison themselves. So I think it'd be interesting to see what we can get from one or both of the solicitors of the towns.
All great points, Adam. All good stuff. I think you hit the nail on the head, and that's those items are in process. So, like I said, I already have 2 or 3 emails into Marine Fisheries waiting a reply back of let's do the dive study. Like I said when I first started, I think it's the cart in front of the horse. I mean, if they're looking for a dive study, how come it was never done beforehand? Like, why all of a sudden are we reverting back? I mean, I know people dig out there in July with their feet and hands at the spit, and there's been no instance of people even being sick out there that I know of. I mean, I know it happens, but I mean, the water quality is really good. But for fecal coliform, now they're saying a viral thing, but I think a lot of it has to do with the sewer plant. But maybe I need to dive deeper with the sewer plant to see what they're actually testing. I think Marine Fisheries needs to come along there for a site visit to look at the sewer plant to see how modern the sewer plant has come. The town has spent a lot of money in the sewer plant to upgrade it with the ultraviolet, things like that. So it's not like it's arbitrarily raw sewer just being treated. It's probably being treated, I would say, probably more than it probably even has to. So, and I would definitely challenge the dilution of 1,000 to 1 for the river. So if you've ever been in and out of the rivers on an outgoing tide, there's quite a bit of flow there.
Ooh, we have a hand up. Let me find Dave Daphne's hand is up. So he should be, Dave, can you speak? It looks like you're able to.
You muted?
He should be able, he's a little weird. His audio is not connected. I can tell you that much.
Oh.
Merge with audio.
Yep. What happened?
I can hear you, David.
He's not muted, but it looks like his audio might not be connected, so he could try to call. Dave, you could try to call in, right? Or does anyone have any other suggestions?
He would have to call in. It could be that his computer just simply does not have audio, so he would need to go to the agenda to look at the phone number to call in on.
Okay.
It's from 1978, his computer, I'm sure.
Stop
Like
it.
a
They didn't have
64.
computers in 78, Jamie.
At Commodore, I don't know, something.
TI-82 or TI.
Exactly.
Texas Instruments.
Yeah.
All right, let me.
I wasn't going to say it.
I just pinged them for you.
I want to hear Dave talk. That's why I'm stalling. This is like.
So in the meantime, before Dave gets on, Dave's been pretty instrumental and pretty voiceless about this as well. And Dave's a big proponent of the shellfish beds. He's one of the guys that are out there helping us. He's a good steward of the river, so I know he's not happy, and he's pushing as well. He's made some calls, and he's called Jeff Kennedy as well. So I know Dave's not going to let me back off the throttles on this one. So.
Okay, and I'm going to say the phone number out loud. It's 312-626-6799. Dave, if you're hearing us, please call in. And when you call in, do star, oh shoot, what was that? Star 9. Yes. Let's see.
Listed as a co-host.
I know, but he doesn't have audio.
Someone did just call in, so if your number ends in
If
0.
you just called in, it's hit *9 and we can then hook you in here. Dave. If that's Dave.
We will find out.
Oh. So did the call, there was a hand raised on the 617 number. Is that, and it looks like
That's
they're
me.
unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Dave.
Yeah, I
All
made
right. Welcome.
We recognize that voice.
We recognize the voice. Thank you for calling.
Is that a landline?
Yes. So just a few things here that I'd like to make comments on, and again, thank everybody for their efforts. And this has been going on for a little bit. Had some emails through Greg Sawyer and conference calls at the DMF, as I have dealt with them in years past on whale issues in federal governments and all kinds of good stuff. So anyways, I just want to make a few points, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, please, on this, but there has been zero testing at the plant as far as for any kind of traces for this MSC virus whatsoever. They have not tested any shellfish to see if the shellfish in our river contain this MSC virus. The dye test is merely for dilution, which means the treated sewage has a count, as they say, for 100,000 to 1 or whatever that number was. But so those are just some points that I've made when I've emailed Greg Sawyer, and questions breed questions, and for whatever reason you start out with 3 questions and you end up with 25 of them here. But his response to me was that the dye study may or may not occur before next summer. They had all this summer to do it, which they didn't do it. And I know it's water, if you will, under the bridge, but this is such a backdoor stab in the back for any of us that enjoy our rivers and have worked as hard as we have over the last 25 years, for myself anyways. The testing labs, the only one that they will use is the one in Gloucester. They won't accept any testing. I have connections down at Woods Hole for water samples, shellfish sample, any kind of testing. They will not accept it. So just some of those points as we're trying to do this the right way, but we got screwed, plain and simple. And basically at the end of Mr. Kennedy's letter, it says that if Massachusetts were formally cited on nonconformance by FDA, the ultimate sanction would be to prohibit all interstate shipment or export of bivalve molluscan shellfish. So this, again, and it was brought up earlier in the meeting, has to do with 99% of commercially harvested or grown shellfish, and the recreational aspect of it is little to none. And quite honestly, with the discussions I've had at the state level, this is a sacrificial lamb, and I really feel as though we as a town, and the town of Marshfield, got screwed over, plain and simple. And it's not sitting well, as you can tell with me. But I just wanted to bring up a few of those points. So no testing has been done, no markers have been received, no alarms have been raised. It's merely a shutdown. They tell me that they negotiated to a closure versus prohibited. I've been down this road before with them. I'm not buying it, and I'm pretty pissed off, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you for your comments, Dave. Oh, sorry, Brad. I just noticed Brad is hands raised. Here we go. Okay. You should be unmuted, Brad.
Yeah, no, I'm all set. I don't have anything to say right now.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Thank you. That's all right.
Are there any other comments or suggestions on actions going forward? Or maybe a suggestion for, there's a lot of follow-ups that maybe we could meet again in the near future to discuss.
Yeah, Susan, can I just go over some of my notes with some of the requests from the audience?
That'd be great.
Yeah, can I just go over that real quick? So I'm gonna look at the FDA and DMF potential closures to Briggs Harbor that Jamie had brought up. So I'll email Christy tomorrow and Greg Sawyer. FDA contact for a letter campaign, Brad White's idea. And Adam had talked about an injunction with the towns. Great idea. I don't think the towns would take on the liability in case someone did get sick. I think something's got to be done, obviously, but I would reach out to both Mr. Moresco and Jim Boudreau about that, as well as our state delegation and congressional delegation, Keating and Lynch. I know them both very well. And Dave Dolphy's comments of the MSC testing at the plant and the actual date of a dye testing study, what it costs, who does it, and how long the results were. And I also want to follow up with the current dilution numbers of 1,000 to 1, where that number came from. So 1,000 to 1 seems like a very whole number to me. I don't really feel it's accurate, to be honest with you. So that's all I have. Anybody have anything else that I may have missed? And also, Craig Rosenquist wants to be a junior shellfish warden and do some shellfish sampling with us.
Yeah. That was all I had in my notes. Was there anything else? No.
That's a good summary, Mike.
Okay.
A lot of work for you.
That's okay. I don't, you know what? I'm fine. I like it. It's good.
And then when should we meet again? Mike, what do you think would be a good time?
I'd say maybe mid-December is fine. Give me a couple of weeks to make some calls.
Okay.
And, you know, give me a little time. I think mid-December is fine.
Okay, we'll
Everybody's okay
schedule.
with that. Get through Thanksgiving and see where I'm at. You know, I mean, or at least notify the advisory board of where I'm at with my progress. But I think I can get a lot done in 2 weeks.
Okay.
I'm pretty eager, so.
Madam Chair, you do have hands raised again.
Oh, shoot, we do. Craig, thank you. Craig is unmuted now.
Just one final comment. Last year, I've been clamming out there for probably 10 to 15, 20 years. And last year was the best year ever. And I was really looking forward to getting out there this year. And it's sad that we got shut down because it was fantastic clamming last year.
Especially when it was 70 degrees last week. You know, unbelievable.
Yeah, right.
So.
Thank you, Craig. We have one other, Brad. I think you're unmuted.
One last thing. I was at the Conservation Department yesterday in Scituate, and I discussed this with Chairperson Frank Snow, and he echoed the same thing Craig just said, and he would like to be involved. He'd like to be part of the thread here, so if you can include him, he can maybe give us some horsepower as well.
Thank you. Good suggestion, Brad.
Including also Neil Duggan, the building inspector, who's also an avid clammer. So we can work with both those folks. They might be helpful.
I think you're onto something, Brad, with Save Our Clamming. I think you've done
Save Our Clamming.
SaveOurClam.com.
I don't want to nudge you, but I think you got something going there. Anybody else have any other questions, concerns, comments? Hopefully no complaints.
I don't see any.
Great meeting. Thanks, everybody.
Mike,
Yeah, thank you all for attending. So, well, we have to adjourn the meeting. We have to do a vote to adjourn. Is anyone gonna?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Okay. And I have to do roll call, so don't go anywhere, Jeff.
I'm not going.
Jeff, do you?
Yes, yes.
Paula,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Adam,
aye.
Scott,
Yeah.
Dave, myself, yes. All right. Adjourn. See you. We will schedule one in mid-December.